Who do I have to charm to get a blasted ale around here? Oh, good evening, mesdames and messieurs. I am Royce Miller, Bard of the College of Whispers, knower of all things. I know much, and I tell some. I'm just waiting here for my ale, and you seem to saddle up next to old Royce, so you seem to want a story. Well, let me just set this aside. Oh, finally! If you want me to tip, you've got another thing coming. The finest ale in the South Farthing. Come on, get that froth. There we go, frothy mug of ale. As the gods decreed. Good morning, everyone. This is Royce Miller coming back at you with yet another ramble. And not just any ramble, as I plan on talking about one of my favorite shows to come out this year. Dungeon Meshi, aka Delicious in Dungeon. Now, its official English title is Delicious in Dungeon. However, because of how awkward the title is... Oh, hey, Clark. Most people call it Dungeon Meshi still. Because that just rolls off the tongue better. Dungeon Meshi literally translates to Dungeon Meal. However, Ryuko Koi, the author, chose Delicious in Dungeons as the English title because she liked that it was a play on D&D. Anyway. What is Dungeon Meshi? Well, you found the right guy to talk to. About some of it, actually. Not all of it. So the manga, I believe, debuted in 2017. And I remember this because I actually got a poster of it on Free Comic Book Day from Barnes & Noble. Sadly, that poster was destroyed in a flood, but neither here nor there. And the anime that came out earlier this year, purchased by Netflix, dubbed by... I don't want to say Aniplex. It might have been Funimation. Anyway. And it centers around a group of classic D&D adventurers. The human, Laios Totem. The half-elf mage, Marcel Donato. And the rogue halfling, Chilchuk. We see them during their adventuring party being defeated by a mighty dragon. Laios' sister, Fallon, sacrifices herself to save them by teleporting them out of the dungeon, using a powerful priest spell because she's like a healer. And the rest of their party quits because they just can't deal with it anymore. So it's just Marcel, Laios, and Chilchuk. They have no money. Their equipment was left in the dungeon. They are starting from zero, and Laios has to go save Fallon. So with no money to spend on supplies, Laios has the idea to eat monsters that they scavenge from the dungeon. Which is a fascinating idea, and I'm surprised it's not more commonly used. What I have here is a list of every single meal that they scavenge from the dungeon in Dungeon Meshi. And so I decided that I, as your dashing bard of knowledge, would tell you my favorite meals, because going over each of these would take way too long and would be boring for everyone. So I'm only going to talk about the ones that stand out to me, that I like, and that I hate. I'm going to do the 5 best and the 5 worst, starting with the 5 worst. Okay, so at number 6 we have the Minotaur rib steak with potato and rabbit soup. There's only one good way to cook conies. This will be really good with some potatoes or with some taters. What's taters, precious? Potatoes, smash them, boil them, stick them in a stew. Anyway, so potato and rabbit soup, vegetable slime, and bladefish loaf, which are 2 different kinds of Jello salad. Now, you probably saw the main reason I put this at number 6. Now, okay, so number 6 means that. Oh wait, okay. So number 5 worst. So number 5 worst, I should say. I numbered these 1 through 10 but I only really like the top 5 and only really dislike the bottom 5. So number 6 / the number 5th worst is that because Minotaurs are humanoid, and I'm not sure I would be comfortable eating that. Also, these characters are also like the people who feed them this meal. They've lost all sense of taste, and so they complain about it being extremely bland. However, it is still beef ribs with very hearty soup and Jello salad. It's basically what you'd get at a family reunion. Alrighty, number 4 worst. Tentacles, so plant tentacles with vinegar dressing. This is a very bland dish. It is literally just the way I imagine, because the way the tentacles are portrayed, they're like flexible objects that can ensnare you. And so I imagine that they have the taste and texture of bamboo shoots, and then just putting them in a vinegar dressing just sounds kind of bland. Although they look like bananas when Senshi peels them, which is why I think they're bamboo shoots, because they look like shoots. Oh, Senshi is the dwarf that they run into when they go into the dungeon. And he's actually been living there for years. Decades, even. Anyway. And he already scavenges dungeon monsters for food. Not much to say. Like, it's just a plant, and it's like a pickled banana basically, or a pickled bamboo shoot. Broiled and glazed parasitic worm as the number 3 worst one. Now, this was apparently a really good dish, but it's just, I don't know if I want to eat a parasite, And this parasite actually gives Laios a parasite because he eats it raw. So the parasite had a parasite, and that parasite gave Laios a parasite. That said, it is a very good-looking dish. Number 9 number 2 worst. Where'd I put it? Oh wait, yeah, there it is. Griffin / hippogriff soup. So, I mentioned that Senshi spent his entire life, Senshi spent decades within the dungeon, ever since he was a kid. When he was a kid, he was part of a group of dwarves that found the dungeon, or that were basically the first people to discover the dungeon, and they started mining away at it. However, they got lost, and were one by one picked off by a hippogriff, which is a half horse, half lion, that they initially dismissed as a griffin. So and eventually it got down to 3 of them, and one of them was fighting with the leader, who was trying to protect Senshi, because Senshi was just a kid. And Senshi heard, so they took it outside, they came to blows, and the leader came back with mysterious meat, and said that the griffin attacked them. They managed to kill it, but it slew the one who was was trying to say that they should abandon that they shouldn't feed Senshi anymore because he hasn't done anything. So like the suspicion is there that Senshi may have eaten one of his comrades been fed one of his comrades by someone trying to protect him. Eventually he dies too. Oh, Clark, what are you doing? Unfortunately, I don't have animal, or I don't have a. I'm not a D&D player. What do you call it when you're an animal friend or whatever? This hat is really hot. It's a good hat though. It fits me. Not many pirate hats fit me. Which, being reappropriated here, is kind of like a general adventurer's hat. Anyway. So, Senshi is eventually captured by a griffin. So Senshi eventually finds his way to an orc tribe who nurse him back to health. And that's where he starts scavenging from the dungeon. Anyway, and so then in the present time, they kill a griffin, and Senshi is worried that if he eats it and it doesn't taste like the soup that he made with it before, that means he ate a person. So he's really worried about it. And they try the griffin soup, and as they had it before, just water and meat. And he's like, oh, this tastes, oh no, this isn't the taste I remember. And then so Laios is like, but you see, the leader was hit with a, I forgot to mention that he describes the guy who's protecting him having like a blunt strike to his forehead, or to his forehead helmet, or to the forehead of his helmet, and he thought that it might be from the blunt weapon that the guy was carrying instead of from the monster that attacked him, because griffins don't have many blunt objects to hit you with. However, a hippogriff does. It's got hooves on the back. So Laios is like, oh, well, what if it's actually a hippogriff? And then he uses this weird thing, this magic fungus, to change it from griffin to hippogriff. And then they make soup with it, and Senshi's like, oh, thank God, this is the thing I remember eating. And so, basically years of trauma at the thought that he might have been an unwitting cannibal finally melt away, and he cries, and it's a good scene. Also, we find out that the halfling, who everyone assumes is a little kid, is actually, like, middle-aged in his years. Because you have to remember, two of them are a half-elf and a dwarf, very long-lived. And hobbits and Tolkien are long-lived, but here they're shorter-lived than humans. Humans live to an average of 65 in that universe. Halflings live to like 50. Dwarves and elves live like 2 centuries or more. Anyway. So, now let's get into the top 5. Where's number 5? Oh no, I still have to give you my worst one. Painted food. In the... Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I believe the 10th or 11th episode, Laios is sucked into a living painting and eats food there. And it's delicious food, it's normal food. But when he comes back, it doesn't come with him. So this is literally a meal that won't stay with you. That's why it's number 10. Anyway, on to the actual top 5. Where's number 5? Royce, you dumb SOB. Did you not put a top 5 on here? Alright, I'm just going to go down the list and... Yes. Well, alright, I'll just come up with the top 5 as I get there. Alright. So for the top 5, I'm going to do sake steamed clams. So, in one of the later episodes of the series, Laios has to save Marcel from a nightmare, a demon that preys upon the evil, or the bad dreams of those who are sleeping. And this is Marcel. And as it turns out, their physical form is actually just a small clam that gets in your pillow. And so they cook them up with sake and eat them, which just sounds like a really delicious meal. Now, number 4, Baromit's balut, or Baromit's chops. Baromits are a strange vegetation that grow a completely synthetic sheep on top to lure predators toward it. And they eat the seedling of one, which basically makes lamb chops. And lamb chops were one of the best things I ever had. And this would be ethically sourced lamb chops because it's not an actual lamb. It's just a plant that simulates the taste and the taste and feel of lamb. And it's called balut after fertilized duck eggs. Anyway. Let's see here. Number 4. Dragon tail soup, onion pizza, and roast red dragon. So they finally do it. They finally rescue Fallon from the dragon. And they cook up a massive feast. Using parts of the dragon. They make a delicious soup. They make pizza. And of course they roast a bunch of it. And Senshi even starts the salt curing process to make some dragon ham. And dragon is very strange meat because even when fully cooked, it is still red, which actually kind of makes sense because dragons are hot. Maybe they are actually tempered against, maybe you would actually have to cook it at a high temperature to get it past rare. Like a searing hot temperature that humans could not hope to do. Alas, they never get to eat the... Now, Laios says that the dragon has an exquisite taste to it. Which, I mean, like, he's a weird dude, but I can't help but think that he's got some intelligence on the matter. Oh, wait. The dragon tail soup was number 5. Alright, you get... That's why I couldn't find it. Royce, you dumb idiot. Number 3. Risotto with graveyard mushrooms and orc cheese. This is not cheese made from orcs. This is cheese made by orcs. After escaping a strange creature that created doppelgangers of them, they make a delicious risotto with mushrooms and cheese. Now, I'm not a big fan of risotto, mostly because I don't like al dente pasta, but I love mushrooms, and especially like good seasoned mushrooms. So that sounds pretty good, actually. Just make my rice a little less al dente. Number 2, sky fish and chips. To save Senshi from the griffin, Marcel has to create a kind of an artificial creature. And so what she does is she makes a skyfish, a flying eel creature made up of all the food that they had on hand. But after it was killed, when they cut it open, they realized that it still had the food components in it, and it had basically become a living sushi roll. So they fry it up and turn it into sort of a croquette and have potatoes with it. And it looks really good. I love tempura fried sushi. Speaking of, number 1, stir-fry living armor baked living armor and living armor soup. Oh, and grilled living armor. So, in Dungeon Meshi, living armor is not actually living armor. It's not enchanted armor. It is a shellfish that develops armor like, carapaces, and so they're basically like, clams or oysters, or even maybe some like. I think the idea is that they're mussels, or that they're scallops, because that's how they're prepared. They look like scallops when they're prepared. And Laios's sword, was part of the living armor, actually. And yeah, it was my favorite thing. Anyway, why did I get Marcel? It's the one thing I really want to try because I love scallops. Oh, no, Clark. Why did I get a statue of Marcel? I don't know. I just think she's neat. She's a cool character. There's a lot more to her than meets the eye. She's also just really funny. When Laios first mentions that they can survive by eating monsters, Marcel literally throws a tantrum, crying and saying, I don't want to, and she just goes through so much pain and suffering. Also, I'm pretty sure that she's in love with Fallon. Well, my ale is done. It's closing time, and I'm afraid I'm about to get kicked out of the tavern because I don't plan on paying my bill. So if y'all excuse me, I'm gonna have to fight my way out of here. Alright, this is Royce Miller. I'm outie.